Welcome back, everyone. This is the continuation of section 2.2, little video on how to do a histogram on your calculator. So what I'm looking at right now is a list of numbers on page 56 in your book. Okay, I'm going to use these numbers to make a histogram. What this is, I'm just looking at these numbers right here. This is a stem and leaf plot. Notice 41, 42, 43, 43, 43. Ignore these numbers on the side for now. We'll talk about the computer printout later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to get these numbers in your calculator and draw a histogram. Okay, so I'm going to put these numbers away. You're going to need them again, but I can't show you the calculator and the book at the same time. So they're on page 56. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to get numbers in your calculator, how to get numbers in a list, first of all. So there's a lot of things, excuse me, that we're going to show you on the calculator in this class. And I know it's hard to keep track of. So anything you forget, just let me know. Come to my office hours, send me an email. I'll try to help out. One of the more common things we're going to do in this class is put numbers in a list. We put numbers in a list and then analyze the list. We do things with the list. So to put numbers in a list, and there are other ways to do this. So if you have another way to do this, it's fine, go ahead. But I'm just going to show you what I think is the best way. If you go to the stat button here, push on the stat button, it's going to show up here on edit. We're going to go to edit. So stat edit, pretty important tool. I might suggest to start to make a list of all the things you know how to do on your calculator, like in a separate note sheet, random integer, choose buttons where they are, that sort of thing. So we're going to go math edit, or stat edit, sorry. And what you see now is a bunch of lists. Okay. So up at the top, you see list 1, list 2, list 3, list 4, list 5, and so on. They got some numbers in them. Okay. So I'm going to put some numbers in list 1 right now. You can put them in any list you want. We're just going to tell our calculator which list to work with later on. So the way you do that, normally I would suggest you can just type over the numbers and start typing in right now. I always hesitate to do that. Oops, sorry about that. To do that just a little bit, because if you type in numbers and there's more numbers in the list right now than you're putting in, you might not notice that. And then they might show up at the bottom and you'll forget them and they'll mess up your data. So the easiest way I think is to do this. If you take your cursor, notice I'm just moving my cursor up and down here, put it up into list 1. So it's actually up there in list 1. And then what we're going to do is we're going to clear it. Okay. Do not hit delete. Delete will delete the list. And now it's gone. So you don't want to do that. It's very hard to get back. I can show you how if that ever happens to you. If you ever get on your calculator, this one's gone, we can fix it. Don't worry. But if that happens, let me know. So we're going to clear it. So we're going to hit clear, and watch what happens when I hit clear and hit enter, and all those numbers are gone now. And now we can just start typing in. You just go 9, enter, 5, enter, 6, enter, whatever you're going to do. I'm going to switch calculators to save some time because I already got them all on another calculator in my list. Okay. Notice the last number in the list, the 73. This little thing right there tells me what number in the list is. Says there's 54 numbers. I'm not going to worry about this too much right now, but for me, that's a little check, because if I added a number or didn't put in the right number, unfortunately, when you're typing in all this data, one mistake can mess everything up, right? Probably wouldn't be a big deal in a histogram like this, but it might be a big deal in other things. So just be careful about data entry, because when you're doing things on a calculator, the only way I can grade it is what I see as your answer. And one data point messed up messes up everything. Okay, so I got them in the list now. We're ready to go. So up here, we're going to go to what's called stat plot. Okay, it's the second function, blue button, stat plot. So we're going to second function, stat plot. And we're just going to scroll to any one of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's on 1. Notice the cursor. You can just move them. It's on 1. Okay. First thing you want to do is make sure you turn it on. You can just cursor back and forth between on and off. I always tend to have mine off because when I'm teaching another class, sometimes these stat plots can mess up graphs and data and that kind of stuff. So it's best to keep them off. For our purposes, you'll probably be okay with it. But if things ever get messed up, you might go back and turn off your stat plots. These are the different types of stat plots your calculator can do. Type, that's what's called just a scatter plot. Sorry, drawing a blank there. Scatter plot, which we'll talk about later. This is a line graph. This is a histogram. I scroll down there. It's another line. Whoops. Let's go this way. This is a box and whisker plot, which we'll talk about in the next section. Box and whisker plot, another line graph. This is the important one here. So let's go back. So we're going to make sure that go to histogram and hit enter. So now the histogram's highlighted. We're going to do it on list 1. If you have it somewhere else, you need to call that something else up. The way you call it up, it can get a little tricky, is there's a little button right here, the one above the stat, that's called list. So if I go second function list, I can just scroll list 1, list 2, list 3, whichever one I want to put in there. So I want list 1 again, but it's second function list. All right, without doing anything else, I'm just going to hit graph. Okay, I'm just going to hit graph right over here and see what happens. I know you can't see the word graph on that little thing there because of the light. Sorry, this is the graph button. We're going to hit graph. And what's going to happen is probably nothing, right? Because, oh, look, I got a graph from another class in there, all kinds of fun stuff. You might have that too. So if you have that, first things first, that's coming from my y equals bar right there, y equals. Notice I have an equation in there. I'm just going to clear that out. It's gone. So that's one thing to do. That might not have showed up depending on my window. But again, if I go back here to graph, where's my histogram? Well, the problem is it's the window, right? So what I'm going to do, there's a little magic button on the calculator that can be really helpful. So we can go back to window and we can change the X minimum, the X maximum, the X scale, the Y scale, and all this. You could do that manually, which we might have to do in just a second. But there's a little quicker way. And it's called zoom. So if you go to zoom, you've probably done this before, zoom right here. There's lots of zooms we can do. Zoom standard takes you back to the regular -10 to 10, -10 to 10. Just scroll down to 9. It's called zoom stat. It's a pretty important button in this class. It'll do a lot of stuff for us. I'll just hit zoom stat. And now we got a histogram, okay? The problem is, depending on the data and the number of bars, your calculator is just kind of randomly doing things, right? Right now, I have no idea what this is showing me. Hey, look at the window. I don't know. And then also notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Teacher told you before, 8 bars is too many. I only want 6 bars. So I'm going to show you how to change the number of bars because sometimes, depending on my data, I could do a histogram that winds up with 20 bars on this. So what I'm going to do is go back to my window just to see what my calculator did. So notice it went from 41 to 77 on the X's and gave me a scale of 4.57. And then it went from -4.5 to 17.55 on the Y's. The Y's are a little harder to judge beforehand because you don't know how many are going to be in each bar. But the X's, you know the minimum and the maximum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my math a little easier. Watch this. I'm going to change this window just for simplicity's sake only. You could change this to anything you want as long as it's close. I'm going to change that to 40. I'm going to change that to 80. It's not going to change it too much. Notice if I graph now, probably won't even notice the difference. Maybe a little shift on the right. Okay. But watch this. How do I fix the number of bars? Well, that comes from the scale. Okay. So what you do is this. And by the way, often I might just change the Y scale to 0, but it doesn't matter. I might bump this up a little higher because I don't know about what's going to happen. Some things might move bars. That just protects that. But here we go. I'm going to change the number of bars. So notice how far my scale is. It goes from 40 to 80. So that's 40. So what you want to do is make your scale the number that divides into it to give you the number of bars you want. So in other words, if I wanted 5 bars, my window is 40 units long. So 40 divided by 5 is 8. So I'm going to go to my X scale. I'm going to change it to 8. If I wanted 7 bars, 6 bars, I just divide by that number. However, I want to pick the one that comes out even. It's nicer. If I wanted 6 bars, I might change my window to 40 to 82. Now it's 42 divides by 6 better. Whatever, you can divide it and use your calculator and put in 7.5. It's totally fine, but watch what happens when I hit graph now. I get those 5 bars, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. If you ever draw this, if you have to draw this histogram and take it to a piece of paper, make sure you tell me what these numbers are. We now know it goes from 40 to 80 in 5 bars. Okay. So that scale is 8. So 40, 48. 48 and 8 is 56, and 8 is 64, and so on, right? So you just make sure I see that scale and then also see the scale. Don't just give me a blank graph. So hopefully that's enough to help you draw a histogram on your calculator. We don't do a ton of those. You might do a couple tonight. We might see them along the way. Please let me know if you have any questions on that. Be happy to help with your calculator. Anything on the calculator, please, please, please let me know. See you next time.